Keys. Well, first off, we just need to play call well, be our who we are, which is a run first, run second, pass when we have to team. Get AP off, and if we run the ball effectively, don't commit turnovers, it'll be that simple. We'll win the game. Aside from maybe a couple botched field goals, hopefully that is something we can put in our rearview mirror. Walsh has been a little better here as of late. Maybe the time off on the bye did him well. So we will, like I said, Walsh, there's an X factor. But offensively, run the ball well. Don't be too pass happy. And when we are passing the ball, short, quick reads, drops, passes. Not because our offensive line can't pass protect, because our quarterback can't move off of his mark when he reaches the final, step in his drop. Can't come off the number one primary target to the number two or number three. He can't read the coverage and the play and the routes across the field from left to right or right to left as the play is happening. All he can do is in his lock in on his one primary target, sit in his freaking cement shoes spot, and then either throw it to that guy whenever he feels like he's got a chance, check it down to the running back, whatever check down, the last check down guy that's 2 yards away from you, take a sack, or take off running. Those are the four things Teddy does. Teddy needs to play better, period. However, he does not necessarily need to play all that better or make leaps and bounds this week. Should he simply be able to, convert third downs, not turn the ball over, not lose yards on plays, that's about all our offense should need from him and the wide receiving core and stuff like that this week to get past the lowly Chiefs at home. All right, so there's your Vikings preview. Let's get to the recap of what happened last week league-wide, and then our preview / my pick'ems for this upcoming week's worth of games. All right, so in last week's games, which, by the way, I know you're very interested in keeping track at home from week to week, I picked 8 winners correctly last week, and 6 incorrectly. On the Thursday night game last week, the Colts ended up victorious on the road against the Houston Texans by a score of 27-20, extending their division win streak to whatever it is in the teens now, and establishing themselves firmly in first place of what is by far the worst division in pro football. I don't think Andrew Luck, who did not play that game as well, was another Matt Hasselbeck-led game for the Colts. It appears that Andrew Luck will play in this coming week's game against the New England Patriots. Then, let's see, all right, moving to Sunday's games, we had the Washington Redskins on the road losing to the Atlanta Falcons. Final score in that one was 25-19, probably a lot closer than a lot of people expected that one to be. However, I felt like that one had all the ingredients for a close game, even a possible upset, even though I did pick the Falcons to win that game at home. Falcons go now to 5-0, one of the, I believe, 6 undefeated teams in the National Football League yet here in Week 6. Six undefeated teams heading into Week 6. More on that in just a moment. Then we had the Buffalo Bills on the road winning as close of a game as you can get, beating the Tennessee Titans by a score of 14-13. So real ugly game there. T-Mobile, Tyrod Taylor, quarterback of the Bills, banged up in that game. Questionable for next week's game. Actually, I want to say doubtful is what he is listed at officially on the injury report at the moment. However, if you read the reports, everyone is optimistic that he will in fact play this coming Sunday, but we'll find out. Then we had the Chicago Bears in another 1-point finish, victorious on the road over the Kansas City Chiefs, who should have won that game. So the Bears get their second win of the year, and all of a sudden they're looking like not one of the biggest jokes in the NFL. We'll see if that lasts. Kansas City, just their woes continue. Hopefully they don't get things turned around here yet this week against the Vikes, but again, it wouldn't surprise me one bit. The Vikings, after all, are 1-5 following their last 6 bye weeks. So interesting little tidbit fact for you. But so that was a pick I got wrong. And then also another close game pick I got wrong. The Seattle Seahawks lose on the road to Cincinnati 24-27. I want to say that in the fourth quarter Seahawks had a very big lead in that game. Bengals ended up coming back. Possibly went into overtime too. I hate this stupid what I look at for the score recaps every week doesn't include whether games went to overtime or not. I believe that Seattle Seahawks Cincinnati Bengals game went to overtime, and that's where Cincinnati won it. Don't quote me on that though. In yet another close game, a 3-point game. Oh yeah, hold on 1 second. Rewinding back to the Seahawks losing on the road to the Bengals. The Seattle Seahawks are now, I believe, 2-3, sub 500. Some people starting to get a little worried. And the Cincinnati Bengals are another one of your 5-0 undefeated, perfect record teams this far. I said last week that was my game of the week. Big statement game for both teams. And Cincinnati came out on top, so kudos to the Bengals. Hope they are for real and that this can be a Super Bowl year for them. Would love that. Okay, now moving on to another AFC North matchup where we had in-division rivals, the Cleveland Browns, on the road against the Baltimore Ravens, and Josh McCown, quarterback of the Cleveland Browns, throws for 457 yards, breaking the Cleveland Browns single-game passing yards record, all-time record, and winning. His team won 33-30 in Baltimore. Absolutely crazy. Didn't see that coming in a million years. Josh McCown ended up being AFC Offensive Player of the Week for his performance. I believe his passing yards output in the last 3 games, as well as a Cleveland Browns franchise record. Wow, who knew Josh McCown and Gary Barnidge, tight end Gary Barnidge of the Cleveland Browns. He is putting up like 8 catches, 100-plus yards, and 1+ touchdowns every week. If you need a fantasy football tight end and he's available in your league, pick up Gary Barnidge right now. All right, then moving on, we had the St. Louis Rams lose 24-10 in Green Bay to the Packers. Packers are also undefeated. Then we had, nothing interesting from that game, I don't think. Then we had the Saints on the road losing to the Philadelphia Eagles by a score of 39-17. So the Eagles now 2-3, getting their offense clicking a little bit. See how long that lasts. Saints reeling, in trouble. Interesting to see what happens with Drew Brees and head coach Sean Payton there. I've already heard rumors of head coach Sean Payton on his way out of New Orleans, possibly going to Miami or something like that. So we'll have to wait and see if anything juicy happens there. Then we had the Jaguars in the battle for Florida lose by a score of 38-31 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Blake Bortles being the story there. He is a top 5 fantasy football quarterback this year. So if you need a fill-in quarterback on bye, or maybe just you don't have a good quarterback period and you're looking for a new guy, pick up Blake Bortles, fantasy stud this year that nobody knows about or appreciates. Then we had the Arizona Cardinals destroying the winless Detroit Lions by a score of 42-17 in the Motor City. Then we had undefeated New England stay undefeated by beating Dallas in the Big D. So cold in the D. So cold in the D. By a score of 30-6. News there would be that Brandon Weeden, starting quarterback, playing in place of the injured Tony Romo, appears to have lost his starting job for next week's game, and their starting quarterback will likely be Matt Castle. Vikings reject, Buffalo Bills reject. So if you think for a second that the Dallas Cowboys' chance of winning this next week's game is better because of who they have playing quarterback, you could not be more wrong. Brandon Whedon, for all his flaws and unimpressivenesses, that's right, I just said that word, gives you a way better chance of winning and is a way better player than Matt Castle. So things going from bad to worse here for Dallas. Dez and Tony cannot get back on the field soon enough for them. Problem is, when they do, it might be too late. In our final couple games, we had the Denver Broncos on the road beating the Oakland Raiders by a score of 16-10. I want to say that the Denver Broncos did not have a single offensive touchdown in that game. I know they had none in the passing game. I know they had a defensive touchdown. Pick 6 returned all the way. So, Denver, your worst, in my opinion, by far, undefeated team at 5-0. They beat their division rival, Oakland Raiders, 16-10. In the Sunday night game, in a very, very close game, we had the New York Giants at home winning by 3 points over the lowly but surprisingly competitive every once in a while San Francisco 49ers by a score of 30-27. Stories from there. Victor Cruz still up for the Giants. I believe Odell Beckham Jr. got hurt in that game as well. His injury status is probable to questionable from here on out. And 49ers, nobody cares about the 49ers. They stink, but they do have Gerald Hodges now. Best wishes to my man, G. Hodges. Really going to miss that guy. And then in the Monday night game, which was a super close on the last play one game, oh my gosh, Pittsburgh Steelers on the road, led by Michael Vick at quarterback, who stunk for the vast majority of the game, beat San Diego Chargers in San Diego by a score of 24-20. It was 20-17 with 5 seconds left. Pittsburgh Steelers were on the 1-yard line. Actually, correct that. They, following a penalty, they were on the 1.5-inch line. 5 seconds left, going for it, not kicking the field goal to tie, because we know how their field goal kicker issues are. Big Ben's on the sideline. He's actually got a headset on all game, clipboard, acting like he's, the offensive coordinator or something. They put Le'Veon Bell at the quarterback position out of the Wildcat. He is literally lined up at the 7-yard line to receive a snap that you're going for on 4th and goal from the 1.5-inch line. He gets stuffed 2 to 3 yards away from the goal by a combination of poor tackling and amazing willpower and personal effort on the part of one Le'Veon Bell. He somehow sheds enough tackles to just barely get the tip of the football to cross the plane before going down. Touchdown, game over. The call was made by the first full-time NFL female referee, and the call was reviewed, obviously, as all scoring plays are, especially when they decide a game, and it was proven correct by the closest of margins. So that was great. Made her look fantastic and smart and capable and all that stuff, and that's wonderful. The problem is the idiots following the game who actually praised the play calling. You have to advance the ball 1 inch forward. To do that, you decided to place it 7 yards backwards and then have to move it 7 yards and an inch forward, when you could have just snapped it back a half a yard and did a quarterback sneak, which is a can't miss, surefire, that's the play you do every time play in this situation, because it should work every time. So the play call was just atrocious. It was horrible. It was one of the dumbest play calls as you can. It wasn't quite as dumb as the Super Bowl pass attempt play call, but pretty close. I mean, honestly, it was really all that close to level of stumbness, stupid dumb, which we call stum here on Balls Deep Sports Talk. Reports today are that Big Ben Roethlisberger